Hi guys, and welcome to the Q&A that we will do for the time when I stayed in the hospital and about hospitals and medical care in Morocco in general. You guys gave us a few questions through Instagram, so we're gonna try our best to answer them. Should we jump right in? How much did everything cost when you were staying there? So I stayed in the hospital for 2 nights.
2 days, yeah.
2 days and 2 nights and 2.5 days. No, I don't remember honestly.
You were there at midnight.
Yes, I was admitted midnight Thursday evening, and I left the hospital Saturday.
It's like
at noon.
36 hours.
Yes, so I stayed for 2 full nights. Those nights cost us 1,200 euro.
Yeah.
Next question. Is it mandatory to have a health insurance? No, it's not mandatory because I don't have one.
Yeah.
And that's also why we had to pay everything in full. You would be well advised to have one though, so you don't have to cover all these costs yourself. I have to say though, I was staying in a private hospital, so even if I could have had health insurance, maybe my health insurance wouldn't have covered a private clinic.
Also, they require deposit.
Always.
Yeah.
Even if you have a health insurance, this hospital always requires a deposit from the patient. Were you scared to spend the night or times without Munir because of language barriers? So that's actually a good question.
Yeah.
And also maybe one reason why it was a little bit more expensive than it would have been normally.
It was just me 30 per night.
Yeah, so
but she was on the what we call this?
I had a private room.
Private room, and also you were on the.
I was in the ICU section.
Yeah.
I don't know why they put me there, but I was on the emergency floor.
So it was like 100, and for this.
The room cost us 100, the single room, and then he could stay over in the night.
30.
And that cost 30 per night. So.
And 100 for the.
I just said that.
So like 230 per night.
So without that, it would have cost maybe around 1,000. So it's not that big of a difference.
Also, there is like if you want to like stay under, it's like 60 per night, I think.
Yeah, you still need to pay for the room.
Yeah.
But honestly, this was money well spent because there definitely was a language barrier, and the doctors practically didn't talk to me at all. With the nurses,
it was difficult.
It was very difficult because at one point they would still give me all the medication that the doctor ordered when I was admitted, and I was clearly feeling better. You can argue that was because of the medication, but I could feel I don't need any of that stuff anymore. Like it was just too much, and my body was just struggling dealing with all the medication. So we tried to talk with the nurses, and that's where Munir came in because they wouldn't speak English. They only spoke a little French. So that was there was definitely a language barrier. The doctors, however, they spoke English and
French.
A little bit of like some either spoke English or French or both. So that was more easy to communicate because I also speak English and French.
It was good.
Next question. I remember you mentioned a quite high bill. Would it have been €0 with medical insurance? No one can tell that. Insurance have their own policies. That really, really depends on the policy that you choose. As I said, it was a private hospital. No idea if any insurance would have covered all of that. Okay, next question. How does it look like, rooms and so on? So I was in the private hospital, right? So this private hospital was very modern. I would say it was completely up to European standards, maybe even above some hospitals you'll find in Europe. Hence also the price. The room was very nice, honestly. It didn't really look like a hospital room. Could have been a hotel room or something.
TV, smart TV, Wi-Fi, shower.
Everything very, very nice. They also asked, is hygiene at the same level like in Europe? At this hospital, 100% yes. I would feel, I felt like they were very, very clean with everything. Also, my room got cleaned 3 times per day or something like this. So, yeah. And they speak English, so not all the doctors spoke English, and the nurses didn't speak English at all.
Yeah.
Are they polite? How did you feel there? They were definitely polite.
The nurses were.
I feel like just because of the language barrier, sometimes I was kind of like overwhelmed with what was happening, just because there were moments when Munir wasn't there and I just couldn't communicate. I couldn't ask what's gonna happen next, and they would basically just put me, come, undress me, put stuff in my arm, you know. So
Also with the needles was.
yeah, so that was like the not very pleasant part of it, but I wouldn't say it wasn't polite. It was just we had a language barrier. Some people asked about health insurance and the whole topic in general. So short disclaimer, we're not really that deep into the topic. We don't have health insurance. We still don't have health insurance. We plan to get health insurance in the future. When the income and the expenses are at another level, because right now we just simply cannot afford health insurance. That's how it is. We know it's important, so if you can afford it, definitely get health insurance. That would be always my advice. So there are different options you can get health insurance in Morocco. If you're employed here, you can get it through your employer. But keep in mind, that doesn't mean everything will always be covered, especially...
No, the insurance here give you half back. This is what
you get it's always like this?
Nah, like
but
also
maybe not from everything. Like maybe if you would go to a public hospital, they will give you half back, but if you go to a private clinic, they also argue with you that it's not going to be half because you went to that. So you really, when you get a health insurance, be sure to read through the policy to know exactly what you're going to get in case of when you need to be hospitalized. There are also some insurances for self-employed people. That's what we're going to look into, but we cannot recommend anything there. We still need to figure that out ourselves. But from what I could find online, the range is usually between 20 to 100 euro in Morocco per month as well. And then of course you can always get like a global health insurance, but that's even more expensive. And you can never be sure everything will be paid, but at least probably some parts will be paid.
For example, the insurance when you want to travel and you pay like 14 and you have like a 3 amount.
Yes, exactly. So if you're not staying in Morocco for longer than 3 months, you can always get like a travel insurance. Those are usually quite cheap, but in my case, I'm not eligible to get insurance like this because I'm not just traveling here. I'm not not living in Germany anymore. So So in summary, I would say the help that I got in the private hospital was definitely very good. They took it very seriously. Maybe they took it even a tiny bit too seriously because they really ran a lot of tests and gave me so much medication. When I presented in the hospital, I was severely hydrated, but it was not like I was unconscious or anything. So yeah, they really put a lot of medication on my medication plan. I told them I don't have cramps when I presented. I still got cramp medication, stuff like this. So
and also when we start like this, no, take this out.
So at one point we were discussing with the nurses, like, what is this for? Do we really need it? Obviously, the nurses are not allowed to make any decisions or change of the medication plan. But the problem was also it was so difficult, like I'm sure is in every hospital, but it was so difficult to actually get a doctor to talk to us so that we could make this decision together. I would get visited by a doctor maybe once a day.
Yeah.
So
Also, when
for
the
3
doctor,
minutes, or not even 1
when the
minute.
doctor comes, they charge you also for the doctor, like someone
Yeah.
specific for something.
I also have to say this was my first hospital stay ever. I've never stayed in the hospital overnight, except for when I was born. So I can't really compare this to other experiences. I do feel like they did everything they could and more.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the doctors did not really look at me and my state and adjusted everything according to that. So that was kind of where we ended up. Also, I think on the next day, when I got like the infusions and I was not eating, I was starting to feel a lot better. I told him like I want to go home.
Yes.
Then on Saturday, I was really feeling a lot better. I didn't feel like I needed to be in the hospital anymore. So I really said like, okay, I need to go home today. I don't want to stay another night. I didn't want the infusions inside of me anymore. I had enough. I was too strong, too healthy, too vital to be in the hospital essentially. I was walking around the hospital all day. I couldn't lie down anymore. I was really feeling a lot better. So then also the doctor decided that it's safe and okay for me to go home. They ran some tests. Unfortunately couldn't figure out. It was very probably a bacterial infection, but because I already had taken antibiotics before I went into the hospital, and then I also got two very high doses of antibiotics inside the hospital, and then they took the sample for analysis, so nothing was found anymore. Also, they did do a CT scan of my intestines and they saw it was very inflamed. So they ran another test. Without really talking to us.
No.
Then at one point I saw a gastroenterologist, or what's it called, and she said it looks really bad on the CT scan, so they want to test me for a chronic disease, and they were really, really set on me having a chronic disease, while that didn't make any sense for me because I was improving so much on the antibiotics and feeling better every day. That's not typically how you can treat chronic diseases. So, yeah. Also, ever since I'm out now, I don't have any issues anymore. Alhamdulillah. And yeah, so these were some of the parts that were confusing. Yeah. And I also think you wanted to say that if I wouldn't have said I want to go, they would have kept me in the hospital at least until Monday or even Tuesday or something like that.
Yeah.
So I would have... Sometimes you need to also listen to yourself and trust your intuition and make a decision. I'm not saying that's always the case.
Yeah.
If you're obviously still very sick, please stay in get medical care. But in my case, I knew that it was okay to go home.
Yeah, also when you spend like one night there, second day send someone to check to say the factor in English?
The bill.
The bill. Because like they just put in some stuff. You need to know what they're doing.
Yes, so you always need someone checking the bill for you, like what's going on the bill and if that's normal or not. That's at least the advice that we got. And also what Munir did. He was running around asking the doctors, what is this for, what is this for? Because we couldn't believe that the bill was adding up so fast, just like 2 nights and it's
no,
1K.
the second night was fine because they count the 2 nights together. So the second day I went there and they said like 1K, 100. What is this?
Yeah. I think the CT scan was kind of expensive. I think it was around 260, and then the sample analysis were also kind of
Like
expensive.
one was 80, the other was 20 or something.
Yeah, so that's also not really expensive.
Tonight cost 400 something.
The medication was very expensive in total because it was just adding up 150 per day.
160. Everything.
Yeah, per day. Anyway, I'm very glad that I got help. I definitely got help too late. If you're ever in Morocco experiencing symptoms with diarrhea and fever, please go and seek medical care earlier. It wasn't the sickness that put me in the hospital. Well, it was a sickness, but it wasn't the actual symptoms of the sickness. I was severely dehydrated at one point, and that was the really dangerous part of it. So, because if the dehydration is so advanced, your body cannot really regulate it anymore. At least my body couldn't, because I was also sick, right?
You lost all the minerals. So.
I lost all the minerals. I didn't have enough water in there anymore. I had a lot of problems. So the only way to get me back was to put it directly into my veins, because my whole digestive system was just shut down. Yes. So that was an experience for sure. I hope we answered all the questions, everything that you wanted to know.
If you have more questions, you can ask in the comments.
In the comments would be good. Then we'll try to answer them too. So in general, I would say you don't need to be afraid to be hospitalized in Morocco. I don't think I would have had a better experience in Germany. Potentially even worse, because the nurses were really sweet. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching, as always.
And see you on the next video.
Don't forget to subscribe first, and then see you in the next video.
And if you're from YouTube, check our Instagram.
Yes.
And
Check out our other platforms.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.